So if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you will have noticed that I make a lot of jokes at Ferrari's expense. Granted, they're usually made in light heart, but today I want to give myself an excuse to slate Ferrari at any given opportunity. Reason being, it's about everyone's favourite team in red, Scuderia Ferrari. Ferrari's pace in 2020 was only really comparable to my girlfriend's pace on the F1 game. And at this point, I feel I should probably mention that I don't have a girlfriend. I guess the strange thing about Ferrari is how they went from being able to get a podium almost every weekend to not even being able to guarantee they'll score points. There have been countless videos detailing why that was, but to put it simply, their 2019 engine was the best in F1 and their 2021 was shit. So let's take a good look at Scuderia Ferrari and decipher whether or not 2021 is going to be their year, shall we? In order to see how Ferrari got to this position in the first place, we must first take a look at their junior career. Sorry, force of habit. Who in their right mind would look at an F1 team's junior career? Scuderia Ferrari was founded in 1929 by the Williams story of his generation, Enzo Ferrari. His attitude towards racing was that if he wasn't going to do things his way, then there wasn't any point in taking part. As I say, just like Williams' story, they've endured a wealth of success since their creation and are within touching distance of having raced for over 100 years. Out of the 1,010 races they've entered, Scuderia have won 237 and have also achieved a massive 16 constructors titles. But the issue is, the majority of this success came in the past, and since around 2007, Ferrari have been struggling to keep up with the developments in F1. So I guess that it won't come as a surprise that after 2018, they were in need of a touch of magic to help boost their win count. So they sacked their previous team principal, Maurizio Arrivabene, and hired Harry Potter. However, being the bunch of patriotic cheapskates that they are, Ferrari didn't hire the real wizard, and had to settle for Harry Potter's Italian uncle on a budget, Mattia Binotto. And although it may have looked like Ferrari were doing half decently in 2019, the issues with forcing an overworked Italian man to be both chief engineer and team principal of Ferrari came to light in 2020. Not to mention, Binotto still had to fulfill his role as a stunt double in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So, about 2020. I'm just gonna say it like it was. Enzo Ferrari once famously said, aerodynamics for people who can't build engines. The problem is, Ferrari couldn't do either of those things. Not to mention, the SF1000 was about as consistent as Ferrari's naming schemes. At some tracks it was able to score points, whereas at other tracks it wasn't even able to slow down into turn 1. It probably would have helped if the team used their ridiculously deep pockets to make a half-decent car in 2020, instead of just revealing the same livery on the same car and dancing around it before playing the flute and pretending it's the best looking car ever to grace this earth before painting it brown for one race and once again pretending it's the best looking car ever despite it literally looking worse than the original. I've got all of that out of my system, let's get stuck into this. Ferrari's 2021 lineup consists of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, who coincidentally both have the same first name, just in different languages. We all know how good Leclerc's been in that Ferrari. Or do we? You see, with Sebastian Vettel struggling as he was, would it be fair to say that Leclerc is a dominant driver, or should we just assume that Vettel wasn't in form? Well, let me just point out that Sebastian Vettel was in the title fight in 2018, just 1 year before Leclerc came to steal the spotlight. At the start of the 2019 season, Vettel was still given the preferential treatment, with Leclerc being the second driver. So why did Ferrari's attitude change? Well, for a start, Leclerc was their future, whereas Vettel was clearly on the way out. Not to mention, the fact that a rookie was able to take the fight to a 4-time world champion in just his second season in Formula 1 was proof enough for Ferrari that Leclerc was their man for the future. So yeah, Leclerc was just dominant, even though Vettel was the preferred driver at the start of 2019. As for Carlos Sainz, he's a bit more of a stab in the dark for the Scuderia. Although, if Mattia Binotto was as magical as Ferrari thought he was, he should have just used the Lumos chart. Sainz had a lot more experience than Leclerc in his career, but I'm willing to place a bet on the fact that he'll be the second driver for Ferrari, at least for the time being. His junior career wasn't exactly as stellar as Leclerc's was, but nonetheless it wasn't one to complain about. While he hasn't been the best driver in qualifying, his race pace has been incredible throughout his time at McLaren, and ultimately that's where you score the points. Despite both drivers generally being quite calm and mature in the car, I can't help but feel that the relationship at Ferrari will turn sour faster than the SF1000 can complete a qualifying lap. Although that's hardly a surprise, seeing as I've been on buses that pull more G-force than that car. While this is completely unfounded theorizing, I'm sure that I'm not alone in feeling this way. Both of them were the higher finishing drivers in their teams for the last 2 years, and this could mean they're both going into 2021 expecting to be the first driver at Ferrari. We saw what happened between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton when they were fighting to be the lead driver in the team, and who's to say it won't happen with these two as well? Granted, a little competition never hurts, but when beating their teammate becomes the sole intention of each driver's race, then it could mean that they take their eyes away from the real reason Ferrari hired them, which is to get results. As for getting those results, no driver could win a race in the worst car, unless they straight line turn 1 in F1 2020 open lobbies. And for those of you who are unaware, real life F1 isn't quite like open lobbies with your mates on a Wednesday evening. If you mess up qualifying, you can't just punt off everyone in the road in turn 1 and leave the lobby. I'm talking to you, Dylan. So naturally, this means that Ferrari have to build Leclerc and Sainz a good car. All I know about this car so far is it'll be called the SF21, because everyone knows that 21 is the number after 1,000, right? BTEC Harry Potter says that the 2021 engine is going to be better than the 2021, but won't say how much, and although there isn't a restriction on how much teams can develop their engines, I can't see them getting anywhere near the level of performance they had in 2018 and 19. But even so, if we assume they've made some fairly large gains in the off-season with their engine, they still have to put up with their terrible 2020 car for another season. Yes, teams are allowed to develop their cars using tokens in the off-season, but I'd like to draw attention to the fact that every team has these tokens, so it's not like Ferrari are getting some special treatment. Obviously, people would notice if Ferrari suddenly jumped back to race-winning form, so of course the FIA aren't going to turn a blind eye to this one, but hey, it makes for a cheap joke.
Do you see me fucking laughing?
So while Ferrari might make some big gains in the engine department, we can't just say that that means they'll instantly be able to fight for wins again, especially given what could become of their driver lineup. Of course, if Leclerc and Sainz get along well with each other, then this video will age just like one of my 2020 predictions, but I just have one of those feelings, you know? Like, I've seen some pretty decent proof of every other 2021 lineup getting on well with one another, but I haven't seen Leclerc and Sainz having a laugh with one another even once. As for the car, I've already mentioned how they can't make every change they might want to be able to, but as well as this, the 2021 regulations mean that they have to keep the exact same chassis as 2020. I'm not an F1 car designer by any means, but I'm pretty sure that one of the reasons that the 2020 Ferrari was so bad was because their chassis might as well have been lifted straight out of a Honda Jazz. So all in all, no, I don't think that Ferrari will be back on the top in 2021. In fact, while I said that McLaren might struggle in 2021 and make some big gains in 2022, I genuinely can't see Ferrari ever getting back to where they once were with Michael Schumacher. If they change their attitude to F1 and just try to do things legally, then maybe they could win something other than more wind tunnel time, but as it stands, they just don't have that championship winning attitude. And I'm not saying this from the point of view of just some Ferrari hater. I genuinely want Ferrari to return to form, but unfortunately I just can't see it happening. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video, and as always I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching as always, and if you enjoyed and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content. I'm trying to upload more often this year and reach 100,000 subscribers by my birthday. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.